Hey everyone, welcome to Our Small Footprint. My name is Nyssa. If you're new here, we are a large family living off-grid in Australia, and we are getting ready for Christmas. That is what we're doing. We have decided, or I have, with the children have agreed, they don't really care, that this year, instead of trying to cram everything cooking into a couple of weeks of Christmas, we are starting early and we are going to enjoy the treats every day for the span of however long we do it, and sometimes not every day. I didn't get a video out this morning. I had a busy day yesterday and I didn't get anything filmed. And it has been tops of like 40 degrees. It's supposed to be warm again today. I don't know what the forecast is or what it's currently 37 degrees at the moment, which should be, might get to 39 today. But there's supposed to be a wind change this afternoon, and it's supposed to be a little bit cooler for next week, mid 30s rather than high 30s, which will be really nice. But it was really hot. So I didn't get anything filmed yesterday, nothing put out this morning. So the plan is to try and break most of what we're doing up into like individual items rather than trying to cram my like normal 2-hourly days and then try and get them out every day. We are succeeding in that so far, but we will see how we go. Now, the reason I said that is because I have a few things on the cards that I want to get done today, because sometimes I just need to get a few things done in one day rather than just bake one and then walk away and come back the next day. And I'm not very good at flicking and changing between the videos. And as I've said, I'm not going to be changing clothing or making it seem like it's a different day, because it's not. I'm doing it all at the same time, but we're trying to make them a little bit more itemized. And then that way, because a lot of the cooking that I do in the videos, because it goes over an hour, 2-hour videos, it's hard to find it when you want to go back to it. So having some of these individual videos will be beneficial for that purpose, if I manage to do it. But I've got a few things on the cards to do today. And one of the first things I need to do is I need to make some condensed milk. Now, I don't have any condensed milk here at the moment, so we're going to make our own. There is plenty of different ways to make your own condensed milk. It is super simple, super easy. The Thermomix gives me a leg up, but you can do it on the stovetop. I'm going to do it on the Thermomix because I have a Thermomix, and I will just say, because I always forget and everyone tells me that I should, that if you are interested in Thermomixes, please reach out because I am a consultant for them. So let's get the condensed milk done. Now, I might film this in vertical because it's a really quick 5-minute job, and then I can put it out as a reel as well for the Christmas season of condensed milk in easy baking for Christmas. All right, so I made a batch of sweetened condensed milk. I filmed it vertically so that I can use it as a short if I get around to it, but I'm also going to make a second batch, so I will do that on camera as well in normal format, because I know a lot of you don't watch shorts. So we're going to go back to the beginning of the recipe. Sweetened condensed milk, super simple one. We're going to, we need to finish out the recipe. Done, finish. All right, we're going to start again. So we've got our jar. I'm not bothering with sterilizing because it is going to be used for cooking today, so I'm not going to store it, so that's fine. So we need 40 grams of butter. We've got it cubed up, so we're just adding the cubes, 40 odd grams, a little bit over. We're going to do 125 grams of water. And then we're going to heat that through for 3 minutes. All right, next we're going to add 180 grams of raw sugar, a 110 grams of milk powder, and I used salted butter, so I'm not going to add a pinch of salt because we don't need it. Next, we're going to blend this all together until smooth. And then it's done. So now we need to scrape down and pour it in a jar. And this will thicken up even further as it cools. But it's already thickening as you watch. And you can actually see, because I did 2 batches one after the other, there's some caramelization of some of it in the heat because I left it in there. All right, so that is homemade sweetened condensed milk in less than 5 minutes. Now, what we're going to do with that is we're going to turn it into chocolate nougat balls. So I'm going to put some back into the Thermomix. Let me get my Thermomix back where it needs to be. And I have some bookmarked recipes somewhere. Bookmarked recipes. And we have these chocolate nougat bars, which look amazing. Now, I don't cook a lot from Cookie Doo because I just don't, it's just not the way I cook. But I have purposely gone searching for a few of these because the kids wanted to help cook for Christmas cooking and stuff. No one's helping me at the moment because some of the kids are not home and the other kids are getting opportunity to play at times they wouldn't normally because the other kids aren't home, and that's fine. But we're going to make these. So these use condensed milk, which is why I was making condensed milk. Now it tells you to get something ready for the caramel once it's done, which we will do, but we're going to start the caramel first because it takes a while. It's really nice and sunny today. There's only a few kids home, so they're not using much in the way of the kitchen power, so that's why I'm going to do these long cook things today. So we're going to add the ingredients. It says caster sugar. I might have caster sugar somewhere from when I did the baking for my neighbour, but raw sugar will be fine. 80 grams of sugar. It wants 60 grams of unsalted butter. I don't buy unsalted butter, so we will just add less salt if needed. I might need another stick of butter out. Nope, 60 grams, that's close enough. And then it wants 160 grams of that condensed milk that we just made. So it doesn't actually say sweetened condensed milk, so we may not have even needed that extra sugar in there, but we're too late now. And most condensed milk, when you're talking condensed milk in Australia, you don't buy anything but sweetened condensed milk, so I'm assuming here. 160 grams of condensed milk, and then 40 grams of golden syrup, which I happen to have here, but is probably something we should make as well. We're going to use this one because I've got it here, and this container is probably from last Christmas. It really needs using because I don't use it very often. So we're going to put 40 grams in there. And next, and we're going to heat this for 30 minutes, which is why I wanted to do it on a nice sunny part of the day. So we're going to just put that aside and let that go while we move on to the next task. All right, so we've finished heating. We're going to hit next. And now I want this hot caramel into a piping bag and put into the fridge to cool. I will follow the instructions because that's what it says. So let me get a piping bag. Now, I, of course, have a super fancy silicone Thermomix piping bag, which is awesome. Comes with a whole bunch of tips. The tips are all in the box, but the plastic piece to hold the tips on, not in the box, and no one knows where it is. So we are going to do it the old-fashioned way with a Ziploc bag. And lucky this doesn't need to be fancy. So we've got our caramel. I'm just going to use this spatula because it was used for the condensed milk, so it's fine, and it's a gorgeous looking caramel. And we're just going to pour it into the piping bag as directed and put it in the fridge to cool. So we are making this for the first time together, so I'm not entirely sure the purpose of this, but it is what it has told me to do, so that's what we're going to do. Right, so we've got caramel in a piping bag that appears to be leaking because it was too hot. So we will see how we go anyway. If it ends up in the bottom of the cup, we'll manage with that anyway. We can stick this in the fridge. All right, it wants a clean mixing bowl for the next thing, which annoys me a little bit. I much prefer not having to clean the bowls, but we will clean the bowl. So what we're going to do is we're going to run this through a clean cycle because it's got caramel in it, which is hot and sticky. As soon as you add cold to it, it's not great. So we're going to do a fat or caramel wash. There's some Castile soap in there and a litre of water. We're going to run it. Now, this is the flaw with only having one bowl. I use two. I have 3 for my 6. I can only get 1 for the 7 at the moment, but it means that there's that bowl washing in between. So I might actually continue on with the other Thermomix. leave this one to wash and just keep the process going because I've got too much to get done. So let's wait for this one to catch up. All right, so it wants 125 grams of chocolate. And it just wants to grate it into a fine powder, which will make it easier for melting purposes and stuff. Then apparently we are to transfer it into a bowl and set it aside. So we've got this grated chocolate. I'm going to grab a bowl for it. And now the temperature, just the ambient temperature, means that some of this is melted to the sides of the bowl just in that 1 5-second spin. Next, we want 375 grams more of chocolate. Okay, so I need another bag. I think the kids have been raiding my Christmas chocolate cooking supply because there just doesn't seem to be enough. But Darryl is bringing some more up today, so in the meantime we will use the chocolate chips. All right, 375 grams of those. And we're going to grate them up as well. And we're going to scrape the sides. And we're going to melt that chocolate. Now, in the meantime, this one has finished washing. So it's now got heated soapy water, will be easy for me to rinse out. All right, so it's asking me to scrape down the sides again. So we shall do that. And then what does it want me to do? Melt again by the looks of it. Okay, we will follow the instructions. So we got another 2 minutes of it finishing melting, and then we'll move on. All right, so then what it wants you to do is put the reserved chocolate in. So what we're doing is we're tempering the chocolate here by adding the different temperature chocolates to each other so that we get the right consistency for setting. So we've got the added chocolate in there that's at room temperature, which isn't real cool at the moment. And then it's going to mix and temper that chocolate while we get some molds sorted. Now, I don't have little bar molds like what it requests, and I'm guessing that they probably sell them in the Thermomix shop because it's a Thermomix recipe, but I don't have them. So I'm going to make little nougat bites, which I think is a good idea anyway. So we're going to, I've just washed these because they're silicone. I complain about it all the time. In our environment with the dust and everything else, even though they're washed when they're put away, they attract everything and they end up dirty every time you go to use them because they're silicone, which is why I store a lot of my silicone in the freezer. But I don't have indefinite freezer space. So I'm just drying these out, getting ready to go, and I need to find my pastry brush because what we're going to do is we're going to create a shell in all of these for using with the chocolate, so we don't want any water in them. Alrighty, next we want to scrape it down again. It still wants me to cook again. I've never cooked chocolate this many times in my life, but we will follow the recipe. So another 2 minutes at 45. Again, it's a tempering process to make them look the best, but honestly, if my chocolate isn't quite as sleek and you know, I'm not that concerned. So, you know, but we'll follow the recipe. All right, next. Now, it wants me to transfer it into a bowl and then have it like over boiling water to keep it nice and melted. But honestly, it's like 38 degrees, so I'm not overly concerned. I have a pastry brush. I have my little dollopy things here. So all I'm going to do is coat the molds with a nice thick layer. Now the recipe says it does 16 of the little like bars. I'm not sure what equivalent that will be to these, but we'll do a nice thick layer of chocolate on each of these. The silicone is slightly cool from me having washed it, so it's setting quite quickly on the molds, which is nice. And I have plenty of these if I need to do more. So I'm just going to go through and coat. I'm not really doing it where you can see it, am I? So I'm just going through and I'm just putting a nice thick layer of chocolate over the whole of the inside in the messiest but most efficient way possible for me in this particular instance, because we're working in high heat and an off-grid kitchen and everything else. So scoop in and then take it all up the sides and add a bit more if necessary to make sure that there is a good solid coating on every surface of the silicone, like that. So that's all I'm going to do, and I'm just going to repeat the process with at least 2 more, and I'll see what I've got left in the way of chocolate, because we do have to put chocolate on the bottom of them as well, so we will see and I'll bring you back. It now says to put 100 grams of roasted salted peanuts across the all 16 of the bars. So I haven't weighed this. I'm not going to. I'm just going to put a layer of peanuts in the top of each one. And then we put the caramel over this. So then I have to get the caramel out of the fridge and put a thick layer of caramel over the top of each one. So we will see. This is a lot more effort than I go to for any sort of standard kind of a treat. But it's Christmas, and that's the excuse I'm using to do some of these much less healthy and fancier treats that I wouldn't normally spend this kind of time doing. I'm going to use the excuse that it's content, that it's Christmas, and that's where I'm going with it. So we have roasted salted peanuts in the bottom of every, sort of just a layer in the bottom of everyone, because it says then to do a layer of the caramel. So, and these are quite high, but we also have a layer of nougat. So there we go. Let's get the caramel. Let's see, did it end up putting a hole, or did I just spill some of it? Now there's a little bit of a split in the bag because of the heat of it, so it's not going to be the most ideal way to do this. We're just going to start putting a little dollop in each one. And then we will see what sort of quantity we've got, I think. Because it says to do a layer. So I assume we want to sort of cover the peanuts, if we can. But I don't want to run out either, because I don't want to cook another 30 minutes worth of caramel. So I'm just going to put a dollop in each one. Alright, so I'm pretty happy with that. We've got a layer of caramel over the peanut. We've still got room for the nougat and everything. So these are to go in the fridge to set up, so that chocolate shell can set and everything. And then we need to make the nougat. Now, the nougat requires a clean and wash bowl. So I'm glad I washed the other bowl, because I'm going to put this chocolate aside. I'll probably have to warm it up a little bit again to be able to put it on the top. So I'm going to put that aside, and I'm going to go back to this Thermomix. I'm lucky, aren't I? I am, though I probably do have another clean bowl for this somewhere. So if I only had this one, I have 3 bowls for this one. But I'm going to switch between them. Get these in the fridge, and then we will do it. There is a little bit of caramel left, and I probably could have been a little less generous and possibly even filled another one, but I'm just going to stick this in the fridge and I'm going to eat this with ice cream or something. So yes, I'm just going to put these in the fridge and then we'll get the nougat going. All right, clean, dry bowl, inserting the butterfly whisk and then placing it on. Next, 1 egg white. I've just separated an egg, so we've got 1 egg white going in. Next, we're going to mix that for 10 seconds at speed 4. Next, we're going to add 130 grams of sugar. White sugar. We're going to add some rice malt syrup. Now, I only have brown rice malt syrup, which shouldn't make any difference to the clear stuff other than colour. So we want 180 grams of that one. All right. And then we want a teaspoon of lemon juice. And then we're going to cook it for 20 minutes at 100 once I put the lid on, obviously. And we shall see what we come up with. All right, we've got 20 seconds left, and then we have to add the ingredients to the flavour of the nougat. Now, I've never made nougat before, but from my understanding, we got to work fairly fast. It'll be like a little bit like marshmallowy meringue type stuff, and it will be hard to handle. Though the extra heat today might help. I don't know. We'll wait and see. So I've got the ingredients that I need to go with it though. With peanuts, we've got some cocoa, we've got some peanut butter. So we go next. We need to remove the butterfly whisk out of the nougat. So I'm going to scrape as much as I can off, but it's not the easiest thing to scrape off either. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here, but it's like a white, I'll show you, marshmallowy type sticky substance. So that's what it looks like, that white sort of a marshmallowy substance there. So we've taken the butterfly whisk out. Now we need to add 50 grams of crunchy peanut butter. I'm using Skippy because that's what we have in the house, because that's what we use for everything else. So 50 grams of that. And then it wants a teaspoon of vanilla. I've only got a tablespoon there, but I just won't fill it all the way. A teaspoon of vanilla, a teaspoon of cocoa. Only a teaspoon. I didn't realize it was only that much. So we'll just do a knife full. Teaspoon of cocoa and 60 grams of roasted salted peanuts. There we go. Next, mix for 2 minutes on speed 2. So we're going to let that happen, and I'm going to go and grab the molds out because my understanding is that this then goes straight onto those chocolates. So let's go and grab them while it's going. All right, now I can see the beginning of the next step, and it does say working quickly. So I think what we need to do from here is just scoop it into the tops of all of these, and then we might have to reheat the chocolate a bit to create a topping as well. So we'll say okay to that. We will pull this out, and we have the nougat. It's a bit easier to work with the added in and the heat. So let's just see how we go getting this into each one. It's going to be a little bit messy no matter what I do, I think. It's hot too. I need like 2 spoons maybe, but I've left it a bit late to go hunting for tools to use, I think. So we're just going to make do. My hands are clean, and besides that, only my children and I are eating them, so who cares? It is quite hot though. I definitely feel like with the quantity of nougat that we could have gone an extra tray. I think we could have spread everything out to go an extra little mold, but I will just put the excess nougat on a baking paper or something if that's what it comes to. This is awfully fancy. Alright, I feel like those are sorted enough. I'm just going to place them up there for the moment, and I'm just going to scrape out the rest of this nougat into a tray, and if I have any leftover chocolate, what I'll do is I'll just drizzle it over the top too. Definitely a fair bit extra nougat. Alright, so there's just that little bit of extra nougat that I've just put in there. It says to refrigerate these or freeze them for 15 minutes before putting the extra chocolate on, so we will do that. And then we will put the chocolate on. Now, they are a little uneven. There is some that could do with a little bit more nougat, some that probably have a little bit too much. This is just for us. It doesn't have to be perfect. So we're going to put these in the freezer for 10 minutes, let them set up, then we'll probably have to melt the chocolate a little bit more and top them. All right, last step, chocolate. Now the chocolate is still pretty soft from before because, you know, the weather is as bad as it is. So we're just going to attempt to put some on each one, and then I will attempt to spread it out a little bit so that we've got a top on each one, so that they look good when they come out of the molds, basically, is the whole idea, isn't it? So we're just going to spread it out over the top like that. I think chocolate may be the only thing that we end up with not quite enough of because of all the small molds that I was filling, but we will make it work. We're just going to do like that. Now, the recipe says to sprinkle the nuts on the top of them, but their bars could have been served both directions. These sort of have to be served up the other way. So sprinkling nuts on them I don't think is going to be the best of choices, because this is going to be the face down bit. So, you know, but we will, when we pop them out of the molds, if the tops of them look really odd, I could always melt some white chocolate or something to create a drizzle or something over the top of them to make them just a bit more attractive. But my children are the ones who are going to be eating them, and they are not going to care what they look like. So this has been a 10,000 million step, quite arduous sort of a thing to do. It's definitely not something I would do on a regular basis, but that's why we're doing it for Christmas, is because it's something I can, when they ask me to make them again, I can sit there and go, next Christmas, and then potentially never make them. So we're just topping all of these with as much chocolate as I can get out of everything. Definitely shows how hot it is because, as I said, I didn't reheat this. It was tempered, but still. And I'm just spreading it over the tops. I know, fingers, hands, all the rest of it. But we use the tools that we have, and my hands are, on a good day, some of the best tools that I have. So on a bad day, they're not so great, but we're doing okay today so far. And there we go. Now I'm going to stick these in the fridge, leave them for a couple of hours, and when I pop them out, I will bring you back. Alrighty, so this is what they look like coming out of the fridge. They all feel pretty firm. I reckon I should be able to pop one out of the mold easy enough. There we go. So I've managed to coat it fairly well in chocolate, and let's see what and look at that. that is pretty impressive if I do say so myself. Very happy with those for all that effort. So yeah, that is the nougat caramel bar things that were a lot of effort but fancy Christmas treat, and I'm pretty happy with how they turned out in the end.